Good morning, Renfro's folks. It's the last day of January 2022. We've had 3 1-inch blizzards in a row. I want to show what the snow and the ice, the nitrogen does, and we also want to look at the length of day that is increasing. What you could be harvesting now, or what you could be planting now, would be cover crops and onions. These are some multiplier onions. You remember we planted these back in about August. What's happening underground is what's important. The roots are growing like crazy. That's what happens in the short days of the year. And then these tops, in a week or two, if you ride by here on Charles Street, you'll see these things just taking off. That's what the length of the day does. This clover was planted sometime before Christmas. It's doing okay. It's got a lot of good roots going on. But when you come by again later on, the tops are going to start growing like crazy because it's all about sunlight, and the sunlight is going to get longer and longer. Let's walk down and look at some other things that were planted a month or two ago. This is elephant garlic. Again, not much top growth yet, planted back before Christmas, but look at this underneath. Look at those roots. That's what's happening when you think nothing is happening in your garden. There's plenty happening. Some regular garlic down here. Same way. This regular soft neck garlic doesn't look like much, looks about like a weed. Look at those roots. That's why you plant it in the shortening days of the year. Onion plants, the Vidalia type plants, they don't look like much. These were planted back before Christmas. There's still plenty of time to plant these. Check that out. That's what's happening. And the snow, of course, helps it, because there's a lot of nitrogen. Now let's look over here at some of the damage that came from the cold. These were old broccoli plants planted back last August. We've already cut multiple heads off of them. The side shoots have taken a hit. They're not going to be much. We'll probably take these up. The cold and they're just worn out plants, but you can still pick some leaves. But we've already got new broccoli plants, so it's time to pull these up. What hasn't suffered is the collards and the carrots and the beets down here. These are just some baby turnips we just pulled. The tops don't look like much, but the turnips are perfect size and perfect taste. The sweetness that comes from the cold is even better. Let's look over here. The beets took a hit in the cold. They will recover leaf-wise, but don't need to. They're perfect size to eat. We've been picking off of this row all fall and all winter, and there's still plenty of time to plant beets. Beets are almost year-round. Let's find a few more carrots to show you. The carrots are sort of overtaken by the weeds. We haven't been able to weed while it's wet, but that's all right. The weeds are even a cover crop. These carrots we've been picking all along. You kind of have to hunt for them, but they're just as sweet as can be. And also you can plant carrots now, so you got to think ahead. These were planted last fall. So the cold didn't hurt the root crops much at all. It did hurt the top crops like the broccoli that we've been cutting off of already. They were just worn out plants. And the onions and the other root crops are doing a lot of underground growing. Now let's go back to the store and look at what you could do to replicate this. Okay, so just to review what we just looked at are beets. They can be planted now, several types. Carrots, rainbow blend, Danvers, all sorts of carrots. Of course, the spinach and lettuce and broccoli, the spinach and lettuce and kale and mustard and arugula, all the greens, the little small seeds. It's time. So start getting your beds ready. Let's look at these garlic and onions we talked about. It's time to start thinking about planting Irish potatoes, typically around Valentine's Day. We've already gotten some varieties in and more next week or this week, but the ground needs to be dry enough that you could work it up. If you got a raised bed, you could go ahead and start. They take about a month to come out of the ground. It takes a long time, but they do grow this time of year underground, root-wise, just like we looked at up the street. Also time for shallots. We didn't look at any shallots up the street. There's some there too, which is sort of between an onion and a garlic. It's sort of a neat thing to plant. Garlic, still got time. It's not going to get as big as if you had planted it in the fall. course, little scallions, which are the onion sets, the little bulbs, you just push them in the ground and walk away from them, and you can eat the tops and the bottoms. Just look out back. Remember the onion plants we looked at, the Vidalia types. These are Vidalia types. These are Granix hybrids. These are little plants. Even they're rooting in these soil in these buckets. They're looking for a home. They're in a bundle. They're field grown, brought to us. You separate them out and plant them. There's still some strawberry bunches from a grower down in Union County that we get some from. It's time to plant them too, actually. These are interesting. These are called candy onions. These are day neutral onions. They are not length of day dependent like other alliums and other garlics. They have good keeping quality. They'll be big red onions and big yellow onions. These are all bulbing onions that are outside, scallion onions that we were looking at inside. So that's just a review of what you could be harvesting now as far as green onions, what you could have planted a month or two ago or what you can plant now. And then by April, it'll be time to start your summer crops. We'll see you next week.